At dawn, Alcinous led the nameless stranger from the palace to the Phaeacian assembly beside the ships. Athena moved through the city in disguise, calling the people to come and see the traveler who had appeared in their king's hall. She made Odysseus seem taller and stronger than before. The sea had nearly destroyed him, but for this morning she restored the presence of the man he had once been. The assembly filled until there was no room left. Alcinous told his people that the stranger had asked for passage home. No guest, he said, should leave his house complaining that help had come too slowly. He ordered a new ship drawn into the water and chose 52 young sailors to crew it. When the mast, sail, and oars were ready, the men returned to the palace for a feast. There they brought in Demodocus, the blind bard. The muse had taken his sight, but given him song. A servant seated him against a pillar, placed food and wine within reach, and hung his lyre where his hands could find it. When the guests had eaten, Demodocus began to sing of Troy. He sang of a quarrel between Achilles and Odysseus, two of the greatest Achaean leaders, exchanging fierce words at a banquet while Agamemnon listened. Odysseus pulled his dark red cloak over his head. Beneath it, he wept. Whenever the bard stopped, Odysseus uncovered his face, wiped away the tears, and poured wine to the gods. Whenever the Phaeacians called for another song, he hid himself again. The crowd heard a famous story. Odysseus heard his own life return to him in the voice of a stranger. Only Alcinous noticed the sobs beneath the cloak. The king ended the music and led everyone outside for the games. The Phaeacians raced across the field, wrestled, jumped, boxed, and threw the discus. Their best young athletes displayed their speed and strength before the visitor. Laodamas, the king's son, approached Odysseus politely. The stranger looked powerfully built, he said. Perhaps he would join one of the contests and let the games lift his sorrow. The ship was already waiting. His return would not be delayed. Odysseus refused. His mind was on suffering and home, not competition. He had come as a suppliant, dependent on the people around him. Then Euryalus mocked him. The stranger, he said, looked less like an athlete than a merchant captain concerned only with cargo and profit. The insult struck exactly where Odysseus was weakest. The part of him that could endure anonymity only while others still respected the man beneath it. He answered that the gods do not give every gift to one person. A man may possess beauty, but lack judgment. Another may look unimpressive, yet speak with such wisdom that people gather around him. Euryalus, he said, had a handsome body and a foolish mind. Then Odysseus seized a discus larger and heavier than those the Phaeacians had been using. He did not remove his cloak. He swung the weight and released it. The discus hummed through the air. The Phaeacians bent away from its flight. It landed beyond every mark on the field. Athena appeared in the shape of a man and marked the place. Even someone without sight, she declared, could find this throw. It stood alone, far ahead of all the others. Odysseus challenged anyone present to meet him in boxing, wrestling, archery, or the spear. He excluded only Laodamas, because it would be shameful for a guest to challenge the son of his host. For a moment, the exhausted castaway vanished. The warrior of Troy stood in his place. But what restored him was not peace. It was wounded pride. Alcinous prevented the anger from growing. He admitted that the Phaeacians were not the greatest boxers or wrestlers. Their gifts were swift ships, running feet, music, dancing, warm baths, clean clothing, feasts, and comfortable beds. These were not the arts of conquest. They were the arts of a people who knew how to live. Demodocus took up the lyre again. As the dancers moved across the smooth ground, he sang a comic song about Ares and Aphrodite. The two gods had betrayed Hephaestus, but the smith god trapped them in invisible chains and called the other immortals to witness their humiliation. The gods laughed to see speed and beauty defeated by patient craft. Odysseus, who had hidden his tears during the Song of Troy, now watched with delight. Then Laodamas and Halius performed alone. They threw a red ball high above them, leaping, turning, and catching it without breaking the rhythm of their dance. Odysseus praised them. Alcinous had claimed that his people were the finest dancers, and they had proved it. The king ordered gifts for the stranger, clothing and gold from each Phaeacian leader. He also required Euryalus to apologize. Euryalus placed a bronze sword with a silver hilt in Odysseus's hands. If he had spoken wrongly, he said, "May the wind carry the words away." Odysseus accepted both the sword and the apology. At the palace, Arete packed the gifts into a chest. Odysseus fastened it with a complicated knot Circe had taught him. Even here, in safety, experience told him to guard what he possessed. After a warm bath, he passed Nausicaa beside a pillar. "Remember me when you reach home," she told him. "You owe me the price of your life." Odysseus answered that if Zeus allowed him to see Ithaca again, he would honor her all his days. She had saved him. At the evening feast, Demodocus returned. Odysseus cut a generous portion from the roasted meat and sent it to the bard. Songs could cause pain, but singers deserved honor. The muse had taught them to preserve what human beings could not keep for themselves. Then Odysseus made a request. "Sing of the wooden horse," he said. "Sing of the trap built by Epeus, filled with Achaean warriors, and brought inside the walls of Troy through the strategy of Odysseus." If Demodocus told that story accurately, the stranger promised to praise his gift before the world. The bard began. He sang of the empty Achaean camp and the wooden horse standing inside Troy. He sang of the Trojans debating whether to split it open, cast it from the walls, or preserve it as an offering to the gods. He sang of the warriors emerging from the horse, spreading through the city, and bringing the 10-year war to its end. Odysseus had asked for this song, yet when he heard it, he broke. Tears ran down his face. Homer does not compare him to a victorious soldier remembering glory. He compares him to a woman clinging to her husband as he dies defending their city. Enemies strike her and drag her toward slavery, while grief consumes her face. That, the poem says, is how Odysseus wept for Troy. The man who designed the city's destruction hears his triumph through the suffering of the conquered. Again, only Alcinous understands what is happening. The king stops the song. Everything in the celebration, he says, has been prepared for the stranger. Host and guest should be able to share the same joy. But one man has groaned through every song of Troy. "Conceal nothing more," Alcinous tells him. "What name did your parents give you? What country and city are yours? Where have you wandered? Which people treated strangers with cruelty, and which received them with justice? And why does the story of Troy cause you such grief?" For 2 books, Odysseus has survived by withholding his name. Now, a song has made silence impossible. The Phaeacian ship is ready. Home is closer than it has been for 20 years. But before the stranger can return to Ithaca, he must finally become Odysseus again.